welcome back to the Blissful Badger and my March Madness Army Showcase Showdown. Throughout this month, we're going to look at all of my armies, and I'd like you to rate these armies on 5 criteria on a scale of 1 to 10. And then at the end of the month, we're going to tally up all of the scores and see which army is the best out of my collection. So, what are these criteria? 1. The paint scheme. Is my army cohesive? What level have I painted it to? Do these colors work for this army? 2. Playability. How did I go selecting models for this army? Is this a viable army on the battlefield? 3. My reason for owning it. Do I have a good justification for owning this army? 4. Theming. How much does this army fit their lore? Have I built this army to a standard that makes sense for what the army does in the lore? And 5. Conversions and customization. What conversions did I make to this army? How did I make it my own? So which army are we checking out today? Today we're taking a look at my Necron army. Originally started before Indomitus came out, I wanted to base it on a color scheme I created for one of my Space Marine Terminator captains. He had a shield that he got off of a Lich Guard, and I painted it up a special color in a scheme that I thought would look really cool. And it wasn't the normal Necron scheme of the time. When Indomitus came out, I was happy to add to my Necron collection. And then when we were deciding on a Crusade match army, I decided Necrons seemed like a great time to increase my collection and actually get some of this stuff painted. While I was doing the Escalation League, I did a few kit bashes, and I got a good first coat of paint on a wide selection of these models. But I still have to do a second coat of this copperish color, this brown metallic, before I actually do more detail work. So although my army has more color than some of my other armies, it's still just base coats, and I don't have as much of this painted as it looks. What's interesting about my Necron army is I actually only started this, at least painting it, last year. The Pariah Nexus Crusade book was the reason I chose Necrons. And if it hadn't been for that, I might have chosen one of my other armies to work on. In the three and a half months that we did the Crusade, I spent quite a bit of time painting other models, and only a little bit painting the actual Necrons. But I've came up with a decent color scheme, and I do have about 1,000 points painted now, which isn't actually that bad. Sure, I could definitely spend some more time and get more of them painted. But overall, it's a nice start, and I am looking forward to painting more of them in the future, especially my kit-bashed Imatech the Stormlord, which I had a lot of fun working on. I made a video about it about a year ago. I also really enjoyed the kit-bashed Blade ones, the custom-built death marks using old warrior bodies and extra weaponry from Immortals, and I definitely need to add another 10 warriors and build these other 30, because having 80 warriors seems like the bare minimum that the Necrons should have. I don't know if I'll go all the way to 120 anytime soon, but it is nice to have a fairly large selection. And I've been trying to build them half with flares and half with reapers, just for the sake of keeping everything looking cool and unique. I'm not actively looking to add any models to this collection at the moment, but I am looking forward to getting that second base coat down on these and getting more of these army, this army painted up. As far as my favorite painted model, I would have to say the Hexmark Destroyer, which happened to be my first mini I finished painting in this game, with a very close secondary shout out to the Canoptic Wraiths, because I took and made the tails have a different color for each of the prime numbers. It wasn't a necessity, but I thought it was a really cool little detail to add to my Necrons, and they make them stand out just a little bit. There's a variety to the colors. It's not just a base color. And there is a pattern to it, even though most people won't notice it off the start. This is also one of 2 armies that I own that actually has flyers, because who can really not go for some croissant, you know? So as far as getting this to a 2,000 point painted army, I don't think it would take that much extra effort to get them sprayed up and then do the details in copper and blue. I think once the weather gets nice outside, I will get around to doing that. I think this is one of those easier to paint armies that shouldn't take that much effort overall. I don't really have any particular knowledge on how they ran before 10th edition, and we never know how things will go for the next one. But I think that the variety of models that I own in this army is a little bit more cohesive and should be able to be fielded quite well in however they make the army exist in the future. If you would like to see a full breakdown of my army list, there is a link to a spreadsheet in the description below. Subscribe if you haven't, so that you don't miss any future videos. I also want to thank my patrons and supporters for making these videos possible. And until next time, I hope you find your bit of bliss.